So it's about how to make private payments compliance in some sense with AML CFT regulation. So yeah, Scope was part of my PhD at Reconciling, was co-founded with Oris Mazak, which is the other actor in my industrial PhD. So just as an introduction, what are AML and CFT? Because everyone was not so aware about it, but it's like two legal requirements for stablecoin issuers, banks, decentralized exchanges. AML is about anti-money laundering, and CFT is counter funding of terrorism. And in both cases, what it means for the stablecoin issuers, banks, stuff like this, it means that they have to investigate on the origin of funds of their clients at some point, and they receive money on their systems. And on the blockchain, it's something that is very easy because every transaction is public. So if you take instance for XRP, Bitcoin, Ethereum, all transactions are public. You can just put all transactions in a big graph, and you have this. You have a big graph transaction with every vertices being a user and every edges being a transaction the user has made. But of course, the transaction graph is very big on blockchain because you can incorporate every transaction that's been made. So one question you may ask is, okay, where do we stop our investigation on the original plans? So you have to set criteria to stop your investigation. And the first there you may end up with is the distance in the graph. We have graph and just measure distance as the length of the paths. So let's say, for instance, we take a distance of 2, and this makes it smaller. And so if I'm in a bank and the user U0 is my clients, I may investigate up to the frontiers or all the green nodes in the graph to make sure that there are illicit users, for instance. But this criteria can actually be defeated very easily because on blockchain you can just make many transactions to make a long chain of users, and you defeat the criteria. Instance, you can set at the top that the user year 8 as make for every transaction, then transaction, then transaction, and so on. And so you have this long chain. But when you look at the block timestamps, the transaction at the top was made at 5, and the last transaction that goes to the targets has been made at block 15. So there's only 10 blocks that are separating the user U0 and the target over here. So the second criteria to may want to add is actually temporal distance in there. So it's equality with the block timestamps. So this is basically the provenance graph, how we define it. This is the tool that we use to ensure AML and CFT on transparent blockchain. And now the question is, okay, how can we use that tool on private transparent blockchain with the corpus private payments? Because we mentioned zero cash, the blockchain on which you develop the CK balance. On Zcash, you don't see identities, you don't see senders, you don't see receivers, you don't see not, you see not. So rebuilding the transaction graph is impossible, basically. And on the other hand, on Ethereum, building on Ethereum, XRP, Bitcoin, building the transaction graph is easy, but you have absolutely no privacy. The question is, how can we have AML and CFT requirements being filled, but keep privacy, for instance, at the level of Zcash? And our answer is ending this problems graph in Zcash, like constant sense. So just a reminder of how Zcash works. In Zcash, we manipulate coins. So, okay, imagine I'm the owner of 2 coins of 10 equals each. Basically, if you want to make a transaction, you make a zero knowledge proof. Okay, it verifies many things that you own the coin, that the money that he spent is preserved, and so on. And out of this transaction, the coins are being created. And why it's private is because the coin that you spend, there are a private input of the zero knowledge proof. So they never appears on the pay. And the coins that are public, they are actually just commodities. So you don't see what is inside. You just see that it's a coin. You know that there are values behind it, but you don't understand the value. You don't understand the amount of the coin, the owner of the coin. And so our construction is basically the idea is to leave traces or identities where it goes. So when you spend the coin, you will create a coin, okay, that will send to someone else. And in that coin, you will leave a trace, or should I use, which is something that we define, which is basically just a hash-based derivation of an identity key that you own, is also known by the regulator. So for instance, if the user A sends the coin to user B, you list an identity inside, and then if the user B space this coin to send a new coin to user C, we will leave its identity inside. So you can see that the user of the coin 2 has the identity traces of the two users, A and B. And so you will use it to reveal in the provenance graph. So the coin that we manipulate, they embed in a lot of things. Therefore, the complete provenance graph, the case GPU plan that is used for maintaining our construction and stuff like this. The whole purpose of the site is to say that everything is committed inside of the code. So nothing is public from the point of view of the chain. And our construction, it allows to provide the regulator with the capabilities. And for instance, we provide the regulator with a blacklisting capability. So imagine that there is a hack that's been done on a bridge, for instance. And the hacker has stolen money and he wants to, use the money. So what he will do first is make the money out of his accounts and bring it to a new account that is just created. So when he does that, the coin contains its identity trace, and then let's say make a new transfer with the new address. And then at that point, the regulator learns about the hacker. So he wants to blacklist the user H to prevent him from spending the money. But the problem is that he has already spent all. And the good thing with our construction is that at that point, if the regulator blacklists the user H, those funds are still frozen. So not only the funds owned by the hacker are frozen, but also the funds that are tainted with the actual identity. So there's retroactive effects of the blacklisting mechanism that we have. So last slide, just to summarize what we propose in normal operations, and even when the regulator blacklists a user, no one sees anything from public view. It's the same thing as Zcash. You don't see the amount, you don't see the receiver, you don't see the sender, you can't link transaction together. And from the regulator perspective, the regulator sees only one thing: it's the identity of the sender of the transaction. But we can't link transaction between each other. You can't learn who is the receiver of transaction, what is the amount, and stuff like this. But still, we can blacklist users and can blacklist tainting coins and stuff like this. And of course, we introduce a disclosure mechanism, because if you are a legitimate user and that's your fund get blacklisted and frozen, but you're totally legitimate and you don't understand why, you'll be able to disclose to the regulator the content of your coin, and the regulator will have enough cryptographic material to reveal the whole transaction graph. And so you will be investigation on, I will try to understand why your coins have been frozen. And if I decide that, in fact, you're a legitimate user and, you just have bad luck and you got tainting funds, but you're legitimate, I will whitelist your coins and will be able to spend them. So yeah, that's basically our work to implement AML and CFT in private banners with the same level of privacy as Zcash. This is just a construction about the knowledge pool, but I'm jumping time to it. Then that's all. So if you have any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Yes. Alessandro.
Yeah, just like a question about how it works. Can you please go to the slide where you're showing that you're hiding the coin? Yeah. So basically, coin hidden in commitment, and then like, what do you do with the sender? Because you said like basically the sender is also gets like encrypted. So what do you do with it exactly?
Yeah, each time you send the coin, you will generate a new identity trace. So it's something that is unique to each payment, and you will embed this identity trace inside of the coin. So you can see it as a randomized encryption of your identity under the regulator's private key.
Okay. And then also, how does it work? Like, how do you decide that, for example, regulator is the one who should get the keys to the crypto? Because the high-level solution work, is it more like centralized, like a tool for regulators to, and then you want to assert the chains, or it is also sort of like decentralized, trusted, voting-based decision?
I think it can be applied in many use cases. And for instance, if you're a stablecoin issuer, you may be the one that got the viewing keys. It's just a key that allows you to view.
Yeah, they basically just own the keys, and then that's how they work. And then they give it to the regulator if the decision is okay.
Yeah, well, but I insist on the fact that it's not like
Because you said that it's more for like to be used across the whole chain. That's what I'm asking. But then, yeah, for example, the stable one makes it. See.
yeah, but it's not like it's just for disclosing information to the regulator. The regulator has the full view. In normal cases, the regulators he has a very obfuscated view, and the only thing he knows is the center of each transaction, but nothing else. So it's not the same thing as some scheme that's reveal everything to the regulator. The regulator is totally aware.
But yeah, more the question was because, like, for example, Tether, right, which is like a centralized company which does have like the buttons to block the accounts, right? And then, for example, in their case, they could be the key owners, and it's their like company compliance-driven decision to disclose it to the regulators, right? But if we're talking about, for example, okay, let's apply this privacy mechanism on a chain level, right, which is run by validators. What could be that mechanism of like decision like disclosing to the regulator? It's what I mean. Because you don't have like a guy with a button.
Disclosing is up to you. You have to want to be the one to disclose information to the regulator.
And if I'm a chain and I'm decentralized, that's what I'm saying. So it has to be like, because you cannot like, probably regulators will be like, oh, we cannot like, if it's some money laundering, we don't want like your DAO to vote and pass to this like 70 hours, whatever it is usually. And then it's like also annoying for the DAO. So it's not yours. It's actually the question I have been curious about in general for all the privacy solutions which intend to collaborate with regulators and want to implement it on the kind of like on the protocol level and not for a company acquisition a stable coin, for example. But I got that this is more like a general layer, and then the application use case already has to be tweaked. Yeah. Thank you. But very nice. I like it a lot.
I can use great.
I would have been surprised that you don't have question now.
I thought this is closer to the digital LRO idea, because if we get it right, you have the coin that has attached the information that you're bringing on with you and evolving, and like somebody have a cash note and you just write in whether was in Bitcoin and crypto and everything. That's kind of the point, because the idea that when the regulator says, hey, this is weird, will come to your door, ask you, and then becomes a legal thing. You will have to open, disclose, and they will see, okay, this is the trace of where it comes from. So they might know that it's not your fault. They have like money launder money, but they can trace who got it and whether.
Yeah, it's very great.
But it's good. It's digital euro style payment. You cannot do it on a blockchain now. Not take a Bitcoin and put this without changing how each coin effectively works.
Yeah.
Because you're not changing my number, it's each number it's fixed, and then you attach objects.
Yeah.
Or to be with a data of a transaction, if I get it correct.
Your question is, can you implement it in zero cash, for instance, right now? Or
The question is, this one, like can you implement it directly in and pick your blockchain style and everything, where without changing how the coin meaning is, because you have coins that has meta information.
Yeah, exactly.
And that you cannot do it with like an account base, because you just have a number that you're sharing. I mean, I like it because it's a really clear thing that of long. It was a good presentation, 1.5 years ago, exactly on this point. But what is lacking in the word digital payment, it's this type of things, which is what the digital euro wants to be. So it's not you trace the transaction per se, but the coins are the thing that bring on, and then you can release information so that you are private and you.
That's why we took the like zero dash construction and just say, okay, can be adapted to many things like a railgun, stuff like this. They all have this kind of construction, so it can be related easily to protocols.
So when you talk about Zcash, right? Zcash has no concept of coins. It has concept of node collections on a Merkle tree.
Yeah.
Right. And that's just the hash or number of inputs. So how does your identity mechanism that fit in that?
Basically we extend the nodes by adding some DBS. So as the node is value and owner, and you can just add some structure. With the same thing as like with the seeds and stuff like this. So as they use, this construction is meant to be used with like the same flavor, like with a Merkle tree, proving that the nodes that you're spending are inputting a Merkle tree. The only thing that we had is a special token, which is the compliance token, which is a third user token. So you have to get registered to use the system to the regulator. Okay, so there's a KYC and stuff like this, and you get provided this compliance token. And each time you make a transaction, the compliance token is spent and recreated with new data added to it. And it's enhanced nodes plus compliance token that we like manipulate.
So the identity is added in by someone else. Like they're not dependent on the person who's transferring the coin to add in their own identity into the notebook and say, I'm not answering this coin, because then they're not going to die.
They don't have a choice. Like it's within the zero knowledge group that it's embedded.
Oh, so okay. So it's part of the service.
Yeah, exactly. It's stored by the circuit. So then the variation which they can trade is on actually
Sufficient resistive chain performance exists. That's why they have to open this to light.